Are you scared that you're going to buy the game casting a Frank Stone and the characters are going to be as dull as dishwater like they were in Little Hope?
Boring!
Or that characters are going to get left at the door and we're going to abandon them like they were in The Quarry? Or are you scared that there's going to be animal cruelty like there were in Until Dawn? Because that shit's uncool. Well, we're here to request 10 things that we want from the game, the casting of Frank Stone, and we're here to show you what exactly they are.
Number one, easy accessibility for non-DBD fans. So clearly, as you guys will know, anyone that's known to the channel will know that I've not played Dead by Daylight before. So therefore, I'm a little bit concerned that going into Frank Stone, it's just going to be dumped with DBD lore. I'm not really going to know what's going on, and therefore I'm not going to be as invested in the story or the characters, because I feel like I need to have played another game in order to get the maximum experience. So yeah, if they could just tone it down a little bit and maybe just have it woven into the plot, you know, a little bit more subtly, that would be a big thumbs up from me.
Number two, interesting killer. Now, I really do not want a killer that is bloodthirsty and likes killing for the sport. I've seen that done a million times. It's fucking dull and depressing. Give me something really complex and interesting. I'd love a killer that's actually a victim, something that maybe we could like feel some sympathy towards. Maybe he's doing it out of fear, just something that's really cool. You've got this really interesting design for a character. We've seen all these really cool snippets of him in his workshop, the backstory in the town. We saw it in The Devil in Me, where we had someone like Grantham Dumay, someone with a lot of potential, but he ends up being this robotic character that ends up just chasing you with this axe. And yeah, I don't want that for this game.
Number three, play as a mix of old, young, quirky characters in the same story. So for this one, guys, it's like I sort of want them to experiment with what they've done with the formula before. With Little Hope, you know, where you do get to play as like old and young characters. I'd really like to see them do that again. Also for them to be quirky. I think they did really well with The Quarry in creating like a memorable cast. So hopefully they can bring that top form on into Frank Stone as well. But like I say, with the mention of Quantic Dream, is that it'd be really satisfying to mix up the formula. So maybe you have like a group of 4 kids and they're sort of, you get to play as them in the story, but maybe you get to play as like a police officer that's also investigating the case, and they've just got things from a very different perspective, just that it's not one group of friends and you just take it in turns with playing as each of them throughout the game.
At number 4, we have successful, satisfying character arc conclusions. Now this point is to little bit kind of dig at The Quarry. Now, we always say it, but some of the characters in The Quarry really get neglected, and you could potentially say it for Until Dawn to an extent, but Quarry's the main example, where you'll get a poor soul like Nick, who becomes a wolf, runs off into the night sky, and we just don't see him till like the end credits. Now, I don't want any of that. It looks like with Frank Stone, we're getting some interesting characters here with these filmmakers. It might be that some of them are like, you know, in relationships. God knows what's going to happen. But I really don't want for us to like maybe really focus on 3 and then 2 get left at the door where we just don't see them again till the credits. Really give me some interesting character arc conclusions, but they really need to be concluded. I do not want it where they just neglect storylines.
Number 5, we want it to be unpredictable. Honestly, very similar to Liam's previous point there. I want the plot to be unpredictable, and again, we're going to be coming back to The Quarry for comparison here. So like, partly this is to be blamed on the marketing, but even from the prologue of The Quarry, you know, those that are switched on will probably figure out that Chris is the werewolf. And especially from the start as well, like me and Liam were pretty happy with the Hacketts, like we didn't actually think they was a threat. So by the time it rolls on to chapter 7 and all of this is revealed, it feels like that you're ahead of the game, which I feel like is not a good thing. You want to be led along on the story. You want the twists to feel really impactful. So if there's a traitor in the midst, if somehow Frank Stone is actually a sympathetic killer or character, I want that to mean something. I don't want to feel like that I predicted that before it got to it.
Number 6, generate a minigame / innovative puzzle. Now this is just a bit of a random idea I have. So unlike Jack, I have played the DBD games, and you know, I used to binge them back in the day. I used to be quite a big fan. From what I see by the trailers, it looks very much like this is a supermassive game set in the DBD universe. So I actually almost have the opposite concern. I think that maybe this game could be almost too heavy for Supermassive Games fans. and people who like DBD won't actually have too much to chew on. It looks so far like we've just found a Huntress mask and someone's carrying a Wraith Staff. Now, one thing that you could do to really bring in DBD fans without neglecting Supermassive Games fans as well is by having puzzles in the game. And you could easily have one with a generator, which is just the iconic staple kind of like mini game in Dead by Daylight game, where you could have almost like you've got to unlock a door, but to do it you've got to go on a generator, and then you could have puzzles. We almost say that like with the Quarry and the DPA games, something that they cry out for is like maybe like more puzzles, more, you know, different things to kind of go out. You know, Jack and I are a big fan of escape rooms, so I'd love for them to implement this, and you could easily do it in this really marriage in heaven made way where you can tie in the DBD universe.
Number 7, decent branching. So one of the interesting things that we found out when we've been doing the research of Frank Stone is that they're going to actually bring in some location, you know, choices, which they, you know, they have done with in the past, admittedly, with the Quarry. You know, you think Rocky Road and Shady Glade. In this instance, it looks like that you could have 2 more meaningful ones. And I feel like that could be expanded to the point where it would be great if you could visit a location and that means that you don't get to go to the other location. If you think back to, say, like The Wolf Among Us, where if you pick a location, you always go to the other locations regardless. And of course, there are some like subtle little things in there. But for me, it'd be great if you could pick a location and that means you don't get to go to the other one at all. And you've then got to, again, it encourages the replayability because you want to find out what happens if you did go to that other location. But on top of that, all that aside, you just want decent branching. You don't want it to be linear. You want to be able to jump into it and feel like that each playthrough is as unique as it possibly could be.
Number 8, we have immersive decades. Now, it looks like we're getting 2 timelines in this game, the 60s and the 80s. And I just want to make a point where I really want to feel like I'm in that decade. Like, if I'm in the 60s, I want people to have the fashion to prove it, and I want there to be music on in the background where maybe you can hear things like the Beatles, the Doors, the Who, Rolling Stones, whatever it is. I just think that you really need to kind of distinguish both timelines, and the best way to do that is through like their haircuts, their fashion, the music we have on in the background. I don't want it to be where we're playing 2 timelines and we're unsure which one we're in. I think they really need to go to town, and they could have a lot of fun with it. Those are 2 really fun decades that have their differences. So yeah, hopefully Frank Stone does enough to really kind of make difference with them and tell them apart.
Number 9, varied horror. So we spoke about this previously, but some of the greatest moments in Supermassive Games, I think back to The Devil in Me, the Erin hallway sequence, where it wasn't reliant on jump scares. You know, you had lights going out, you were relying on the audio. Really impressive stuff. Even when you're thinking about like some of the other DPA games, when you're walking around as the characters and you might get a jump scare, but it's not that sort of typical jump scare where the camera zooms in, everything goes quiet. Maybe it's a mannequin falling, maybe it's a deer running across the road and it can just, you know, throw you for like a second or 2. So really sort of really amp up the sort of the different types of horror that players can experience throughout Frank Stone.
And at number 10, we have decent length. Now, we really want Frank Stone to have a decent length for me to be screaming, so my neighbours are concerned for my well-being. I want plenty of balls to the wall action, and it needs to be at least 7+ to really keep me satisfied.
Liam, mate, do you know how bad that sounds?
Mate, no, it sounded perfect. Let's just move on. And guys, that is it. Those are 10 requests that we have for Frank Stone. Now, we did a very similar video for what we want from the Until Dawn remake, remastered, whichever one it is. Loads of people in the comments gave me shit for saying the wrong one. So I'm going to say both, so you can't harm me. But, you know, we've done the same here for casting of Frank Stone. So, guys, let us know what you thought of our 10 points. And let us know if you have any requests as well, things that you want to see in this game, the casting of Frank Stone.
Don't forget as well, we have done a video like this for Directive 8020 as well. So if you want to check that out, guys, find the playlist and you'll see it in there.
So yeah, guys, be sure to keep your tabs on the channel. We'll be making more videos of the casting of Frank Stone as it comes out. But until then, guys, we will see you in the next one.
Catch you later.
Are you scared that you're going to buy the game, Little... No, not Little Hope. They've already bought Little Hope.